Recording in progress.
Okay, everyone, let's take a seat. Councillor Bowman, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, for goodness sakes. I'm sorry.
Councillor Bowman?
Yes, I'm coming. One sec.
There we go.
So thank you. In place of the pledge today, we are going to be reading a blurb about Shirley Chisholm, a woman of purpose. Shirley Anita Chisholm lived in from November 30th, 1924 to January 1st, 2005. She was born to immigrant parents. She was an American politician who in 1968 became the first Black woman elected to the United States Congress. Chisholm represented New York's 12th congressional district for 7 terms from 1969 to 1983. And in 1972, she became the first Black candidate for a major party nomination for the President of the United States, and the first woman to run for the Democratic Party's nomination. Her campaign was underfunded, only spending $300,000 in total. She also struggled to be regarded as a serious candidate instead of as a symbolic political figure. She was ignored by much of the Democratic political establishment. Born in Brooklyn, New York, she spent ages 5 through 9 in Barbados, where her family was from and where her grandmother lived, and would always consider herself a Barbadian American. Back in the United States, she excelled at school and earned her college degree. She started working in early childhood education and became involved in the local Democratic Party politics in the 1950s. In 1964, she overcame some resistance because she was a woman, and she was elected to the New York State Assembly. And for 4 years later, she was elected to Congress, where she led the expansion of food and nutrition programs for the poor and rose to party leadership. She retired from Congress in 1983 and taught at Mount Holyoke College while continuing her political organizing. In 2015, Chisholm was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Thank you very much. For our guests tonight, we have a new rule that we've implemented that we will sometimes honor someone instead of doing the pledge. Would you like to also do the pledge, or is this?
No.
No, good. So we're honoring someone tonight, Shirley Chisholm. Thank you very much. And you can be seated. So please, everyone should be aware that this meeting is both being audio and video recorded. And I have to announce who is joining us remotely. So we have Councillor Greenberg, Grossman, Humphrey, Kelly, Krinsman, Maliki, Markowitz, Oliver, Wright, and Kalis, and Councillor Gentile, who are remote with us tonight. Councillor Norton is on her way. And for those who are interested, on March 8th is a day to celebrate women's achievement, International Women's Day, raise awareness about discrimination and take action to drive gender parity. And I also want to wish our friends who are celebrating the Holi holiday. Holi is celebrated in the Indian subcontinent for centuries, with poems documenting celebrations back to the 4th century. And it marks the beginning of spring after a long winter, symbolic of the triumph of good over evil. And it is celebrated in March, corresponding to the Hindu calendar month of Falguna, if I said that correctly. So we wish everybody a wonderful celebration of the Holi holiday. Now for first call items. Vice President Lipoff for the Land Use Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The report starts on page 360, and it's from our February 28th meeting, 23-23, parens 3, 697 Washington Street Realty Trust, request to amend special permit 289-18, approved 701. 68-23, Her Honor the Mayor, request to authorize partial release of the Declaration of Affordable Housing Covenants at 677 Winchester Street, Coleman House, operated by Two Life Communities. Land use approved 7-0. All other items were held. I'll move the report, but I do have some public hearings to assign.
Please go ahead.
69-23, James Gross and Kiki Bogarard Gross, request for a non-conforming front setback at 80 Highland Ave for March 21st, and also for March 21st. The next two, 70-23, Brian McDonald, trustee, Continuous Improvement Realty Trust, request to amend special permit 101-17 to convert an existing office space into 2 residential units at 46 Farwell Street. And 71-23, Turnkey Realty Group LLC, requests to extend a non-conforming 2-family dwelling at 152-154 Lexington Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crosley for the Zoning and Planning Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. Our report is on page 361. We moved one item. We met on Monday, February 27th, and the item is 46-23, the appointment of Anne Marie Stein to the Newton Historical Commission by Her Honor the Mayor for a term of office to expire on March 6th, 2026. This was approved 8-0. All other items were held, and we have an item on second call.
Thank you very much. And the next is Councillor Krinsman for the Programs and Services Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. There is no report this evening.
It's a little loud. Thank you very much. Councillor Downs for the Public Safety and Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The report starts on page 361. The Public Safety and Transportation Committee met on February 22nd. We held both items.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Leary for Public Facilities.
Thank you, Madam President. There is no report. However, I would like to assign a public hearing, and I have one late filed item.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is 78-23, National Grid petition for a grant of location to relocate an existing regulator station, and that's at the intersection of California and Bridge Street, along with a traffic box and 3 vent poles. And that's going to be heard on March 8th, our next meeting. And then I have a late filed item as well. This is authorization for Mass Water Resource Authority grant loan program, and it's to appropriate and expend $3,250,000 in grant funding and authorization to borrow $1,085,000 in an interest-free loan from the MWRA Sewer Infiltration Inflow Local Financial Assistance Program, Phase 14. So this is a total of $4,340,000 for design and construction of sewer CIP project number 9.
Okay, so Councillor Leary would like a suspension of the rules to accept a late filed item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Grossman for the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The report begins on page 362. The committee met on Monday, February 27th, and the only item that we heard that evening was held. So I don't think technically there's anything to move.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Laredo, Real Property Reuse Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. There's no report this evening.
Before we call the roll on the first call items, Councillor Downs reminded me that we were going to have a moment of silence tonight in memory of the over 1 million people who died due to COVID in the United States. And it's just about 3 years ago today that this whole thing started. So let's have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Now we can call the roll.
Counselor Baker.
Aye.
Counselor Bowman.
Aye.
Counselor Crossley. Counselor Danberg. Counselor Downs.
Aye.
Counselor Gentile.
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg.
Aye.
Counselor Grossman.
Aye.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman.
Aye.
Counselor Laredo.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Counselor Maliki.
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Counselor Noel. Aye. Counselor Norton.
Aye.
Counselor Oliver.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Albright.
Aye.
Motion carries 24 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you very much. We have some resolutions tonight, and the first one is honoring the championship volleyball team from Newton North. And we'd love to have you and your coaches come up, and we'd like to read you a little resolution.
Can you
Pardon?
suspend the rules to bring him inside the rail?
Yes, thank you, Counselor Baker. We need to suspend the rules to invite the team to come on up. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Come on up. Okay, how should we do this? We have to, is this?
All right, so we are offering this testimonial commendation honoring the Newton North High School girls volleyball team for the outstanding accomplishments in 2022. Whereas the Newton North High School girls volleyball team had an exceptional and outstanding season, earning the title of MIAA Division I Massachusetts champions. And whereas after an amazing 19-1 regular season where the team only lost 11 sets all season, the Newton North girls volleyball team went into the postseason looking to finish what they started last season. After reaching the state finals last season, the team was on a mission to take the next step and lift the trophy for a state title. And
whereas the Newton North High School girls volleyball team showed true character during the tournament run, and how they handled the pressure they put on themselves was truly special. And whereas Newton North High School girls volleyball team played, inspired, connected with heart and skill all season, and especially in the championship game. The poise they showed after losing the second set was a testament to how incredible a team and season they had. They bounced back with tenacity of a champion.
Now therefore be it known that in the recognition of the Newton North High School girls volleyball team's achievements in 2022, the Honorable City Council, representing the entire city of Newton, congratulates the member of Newton North High School girls volleyball team for their accomplishments. And this is signed by the councilors from Ward 2, myself, Councilor Norton, Councilor Lucas, and Vice President Lipoff, and President Emeritus Baker. And we thank you very much and congratulate you all. parents, you can come up and take pictures. We'll just get out of the way. Just one? They're not. Wow. There's some that couldn't make it today. Yeah, Abigail, right, and Allison. Allison were. Thank you very much, guys. We really, we want to do this again next year. Thank you. Oh, my God.
Oh, I saw it. You recognize that? I recognize Helen.
We have one more.
If I could have your attention, we have another resolution. If I could have the councilor's attention, I have another resolution. Thank you. We have a resolution tonight to a longtime Newton resident who is in many people's hearts, a longtime advocate for disabilities, Gerard Plant, who passed away last month. An Auburndale resident. Gerard Plant was a passionate and effective advocate for people with disabilities, whereas Gerard Plant dedicated his life to helping people get the accommodations they were legally entitled to, whereas Gerard Plant was a tenacious lobbyist working alongside the Boston Center for Independent Living to increase funding for alternative housing voucher program, enabling people with disabilities to leave nursing homes to live independently. And whereas Gerard Plant fought fiercely for living wages for personal care assistance and to expand PCA coverage for people as part of the Mass Health Program. And whereas Gerard Plant was a member of the Commission on Disabilities for almost 20 years, including 12 years as co-chair of the commission. And whereas Gerard's advocacy led Newton to create a full-time ADA coordinator position, and under Gerard's leadership on the commission, upgraded City Hall to be more accessible, and most especially the elevator serving the War Memorial. And whereas Gerard's advocacy also led to improved enforcement of accessible parking spaces, and these fines be made available to the commission to support their work. And whereas Gerard Plant worked with state legislators, the MBTA, and local officials to authorize funding and to start the process to make Newton's commuter rail stations accessible. And whereas Gerard Plant was a frequent rider on the MBTA trolley system and conscientiously reported issues to the MBTA that affected safety and accessibility for people with disabilities. And whereas Gerard Plant earned the title of the Mayor of Auburndale because of his willingness to help his neighbors resolve issues they encountered, most especially in Norm Baker Gardens. And whereas Gerard Plant was not afraid to speak up loud and clear when he felt not enough was being done to keep people safe and support those in need. And for 20 years, Gerard's popular column, Simple Times, in the Boston Post-Gazette addressed many important issues in society. And whereas the world is a far better place given Gerard's dedication to advancing rights for people with disabilities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Honorable City Council, representing the entire city of Newton, recognizes Gerard Plant's immeasurable impact on the city of Newton in making it a more welcoming, accessible, and livable city for all its residents, and recognizes the great loss to our community brought on by his passing. This commendation is offered on the 6th day of March, 2023 by Council President Susan Albright, Council Vice President Richard Lipoff, President Emeritus R. Lyle Baker, and Councilors Alicia Bowman, Leonard Gentile, Joshua Krinsman, Christopher Markowitz, and Andrea Downs on behalf of the entire City Council.
Councillor Downs, you have a motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have a resolution to reconsider because time is of the essence. Number 6823, request to authorize partial release of the Declaration of Affordable Housing Covenants for 2 Life.
Okay, so this motion would mean that we would be able to provide the signature of the mayor on our council order sooner. Actually, we could do it tomorrow. And I believe tomorrow is a deadline that 2 Life Communities is looking to meet with respect to the Opus project. So we're asking for reconsideration. So if you vote yes, you want to reconsider, which we don't want to do. And if you vote no, we will not reconsider this. And we will be able to get the mayor's signature and hand this over to 2 Life Communities tomorrow. Does everybody get it? Okay, so on the motion to reconsider, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no?
No.
No.
Thank you very much. So that takes care of your 2 Life Opus project. Thank you. Okay, now we second call. I lost mine. There we go. So the first item on second call is 38-23 on Adams Street. Vice President Lipoff.
Yes, this item is back in front of us. It was postponed to a date certain because we wanted more of a full complement. It was during vacation, and I think we have all 24 here combined on Zoom and in person, which is great. 194 Adams Street. This is a petition to take a 3-family home and take it down and do 5 units with parking on the first level. This property is to the left of, help me out, Sons of Italy. And there's a parking lot that curves around, large parking lot for Sons of Italy at the back. 2 driveways, one on either side. One on the right goes to the back to the parking lot for Sons of Italy. The other one is going to be closed, so there aren't 2 curb cuts. There'll just be the one for going to the back. There were some changes to the plan. There was some problem with the parking entrance being too close to the street. They pulled it back. I won't get into too many more details. I will actually let the person who put this on second call, Councilor Greenberg, speak a little more about it. This passed 5-0-3. Thank you.
Councilor Greenberg, you asked for this to be postponed. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This is a wonderful project. The petitioner worked well with the neighborhood, had several community meetings, and met all the concerns that the neighborhood had with the original design of the building. There have been many iterations since then, especially with the Sons of Italy. The Sons of Italy Spokesmen have been happy with the final results. This project includes two 900 square unit apartments with an elevator, which would make it perfect for seniors in our neighborhood who wants to downsize. It's just a lovely project, and all three of our Ward 1 councilors support it, and I urge my colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to speak? No hands are raised, so we can call the roll.
Counselor Baker. Counselor Bowman.
Aye.
Counselor Crossley.
Aye.
Counselor Danberg. Counselor Downs.
Aye.
Counselor Gento.
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg.
Aye.
Counselor Grossman.
Aye.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman.
Aye.
Counselor Laredo.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Counselor Maliki.
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Counselor Noel.
Aye.
Counselor Norton.
Aye.
Counselor Oliver.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Albright.
Aye.
Motion carries 24 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you very much. And the last item is item 477-22. Councilor Crossley.
Thank you, Madam President. This too was postponed to a date certain because we took it up for the first time during school vacation where 5 members were absent. At that time, I gave a very truncated report. I will give a full report this evening, but I'm going to try and keep it really short. We had a 3.5-hour committee of the whole with ZAP presiding in order to present this material, which included a presentation by Ian Finlayson of DOER that was only about 10 minutes. The rest of the time was questions from the City Council, and most members were present. And then we did have a public hearing, although we're not required to for this item. I'll read the item again in the record. 477-22 it's many counselors, half of us, requesting discussion with the Sustainability Team Planning Department about the new Massachusetts Building Energy Code amendments, and to consider adopting the specialized energy code pursuant to the entirety of 225 CMR 22 and 23, including appendices RC and CC. Okay, so we approved this item in committee 602 at the conclusion of the committee of the whole. What's important to us as we consider this item is first to understand that there's 2 pieces we have to consider. One is whether or not we want to adopt the specialized code, assuming we understand what it is, and I'll give you just the very key pieces of this. And 2, should we want to adopt the specialized code? When do we want to make it effective? I think we take a half step back and understand, everyone understands that we are what's called a stretch code community. Newton was the first of 300, now 300 of Massachusetts' 351 communities to adopt the stretch code. A new stretch code went into effect in January of this year, and it is a big jump forward from what the code was last year. Even though that code has evolved over the years and become more stringent, this was a big jump forward. The reason why is that there's now state laws requiring the state to come up to a certain level of energy efficiency with new construction. But what consumed much of our conversation on the night of the committee of the whole, and something that is true, is that it was made effective on January 1st with not the usual notice that Mass Code gets. And so it's been very difficult. And I wanted to make sure that Council understood that that happened because it's important for us to understand the reason why we should give at least a 6-month grace period before making the specialized code effective if we choose to adopt the specialized code. The committee's vote of 602 was in favor of adopting the specialized code, but we disagreed. There was a motion to make the code effective as of July 2024, which technically failed in a tie vote. So that's a discussion we need to have tonight. What do we need to know? We don't need to, I'm going to say we don't need to know all of the particulars that are in the current stretch code that is in effect. City councils, town meetings do not necessarily get involved in the particulars of code because, quite frankly, we don't have the expertise to do so. That is the province of the Bureau of Building Regulations and Standards at the state level and in the Inspectional Services Department, whose job, as we know, is to enforce the code. Why is the energy code different? Because starting with the stretch code, the government, the state government, started getting involved in developing rules in order to comply with laws that the state has put forward that are intending to essentially reach our climate action goals. Although the stretch code in full force and effect, both for residential and commercial properties as of January 1, represents a big step forward in construction practices. The stretch code includes a provision, the one that we have nothing to do with, that by July of 2024, it becomes even stricter.
Councilor Crossley, you need to ask for more time.
I'm just presenting the item. I need to ask for more time for that.
Well, are you?
I'm not speaking. I'm just trying to tell you what we talked about.
Okay.
All right? So, and I'm almost done.
Okay.
But this is what's important about, I'm not going to talk about any of the particulars of the item here. If folks have questions about what's in the specialized code and so forth, you can ask those questions during our discussion. But the real key issue here is when to make the code effective. So the specialized code has the same requirements as the stretch code for residential construction that will go into effect as of July of 2024. And then there's the difference between actually only in multifamily residential construction is that there's a stricter requirement for the pathway they have to use, which is essentially what we understand as passive house. Those are the differences. Those are the key differences between the stretch code and the specialized code. So the question we need to be asking ourselves, which we made clear during that meeting, is do we want to adopt the specialized code? Does it move us further toward our climate action goals? And if so, when to adopt it? One more thing that came up during the meeting, the 10 Communities Act. And I'm not going to get into details about this either, but you all know that we are one of 10 communities poised to be able to require electrification for new construction. That's relevant here, and that was explained during our committee of the whole, because essentially we must adopt the specialized code if we want to participate in that program, and we have to do it at least concurrently with participating in that program. The adoption of the specialized code cannot lag behind that time frame. And our 10 communities application has to go in September 1st of this year. And the state told us at this meeting that they intend to move quickly to effect the program as soon as they get these applications in. So that's what we learned at this meeting. And I'll take any questions, and I'll speak to the item later if that's necessary.
Okay, from the council. I see Councilor Wright has a hand raised.
Yes, I was wondering, in order to be part of that electrification for those 10 communities, and you're saying that we have to have the paperwork in by September, but we also need to meet our 10%. And I don't think we're going to meet our 10% affordable housing by that time.
Is that a question through the chair to Councilor Crossley?
Yes, please.
I think we need to take this up assuming that we will. What the planning department said to me, and I checked in with them again after our committee of the whole meeting, checked in with Ms. Kyra, who's also on top of everything that's happening in the land use committee, and also the zoning board of appeals. And it's really the projects that are before the zoning board of appeals and whether or not they can dispose of them, by the summer. That is what the plan is. And I think in particular, it's the one that there's a large project in Ward 8, actually right across Needham Street from us, that's being done by Northland Properties. There are others, but that one is the one that's most current. So she's telling me that that's still a very real possibility.
Okay, even though we lost the 300 on Dunstan East from the list.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Baker?
I just want to be clear on where we're going. We have the two basic issues, as I hear it from the chair. One is to adopt the new measure, and the second is when is it effective? Now, those are divided questions, I assume. We can divide that and vote on them separately. But I was one of the members of the committee who supported a somewhat later time in order to give everyone ample time to get in understanding of what is going on and how it will affect them. So depending on how the chair and the president want to proceed, I would suggest a vote on the main item, but then to sort out the timing separately somehow. And I'd be glad to support the later date at that time.
Okay, Councilor Bowman.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I will be brief. I strongly support us adopting the specialized stretch code tonight and adopting it effective January. We need to adopt it in order to move forward and be in our best position to move forward on the 10 communities electrification. And if I remember correctly, is that the communities that have adopted the specialized code already adopted at the beginning of this year and made it effective in July. So those communities felt comfortable giving building developers 6 months or less. We're talking now close to 9 months. I think this is plenty of time. And again, I think what we heard in that meeting was the biggest issues people had with the new code they have with the current stretch code that already exists. So the difference between the stretch and the specialized stretch is more a function to push towards electrification, so faster, so and not give the option for dual fuel system. So I think it's time for us to move forward, and I hope we can strongly adopt the specialized stretch code as well as support a January 1, 2024 adoption. Thank you.
Councilor Downs.
I have a question for the chair through the president. So let me get my dates straight here. The application is due September 2023. Okay, and our effective date options are what? I heard June. I heard January. Is that or July? Is it July 2023 or January 2024? Or are we talking January 2024 and July of 2024? I'm unclear on that. Okay, the application that we're putting into the state is dated, the deadline for that is September 2023, is that correct, this year? So when does our effective date need to be in order for that application to be valid?
Yes, please.
I think I'm confusing myself. The effective date of the I just really lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
So I need to know which extension will get us to what I hope is our goal, which is to have a specialized code in place so that we qualify for the 10 Communities Act.
Yes, by January.
So January 2024 is early enough.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, in that case, I know how I'm going to vote. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Baker?
Can I ask a clarification of the chair? Can she also clarify that July of 2024 is still possible for 10 communities? I thought that was understood. In other words, we're just talking about not whether 10 communities can function, but whether, in fact, it's enough time for people to get prepared. At least that's my understanding. But perhaps the chair can clarify through you, Madam President.
Go ahead, Councilor Crosley.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that question?
The question through the President to you, Madam Chair, is that the concern is that the 10 Communities opportunity requires ultimately the adoption of the new measure and having it effective. The question is it effective January 2024 or July 2024 make a difference in our ability to qualify for 10 communities? My understanding is either date will work for that, but if that's not correct, I'd like to be corrected.
I'm qualify for 10 communities. Could you explain what you're talking about there?
I was trying to respond to what Councilor Bowman was saying, which I thought was that we needed to have the effective date in January in order to be a participant in the 10 communities application, which is a process whereby Newton and other communities can move more expeditiously towards some of the climate protection plans that people have had in mind. The full scope of those I don't pretend to try and articulate here. I'm just trying to preserve the opportunity for us to participate in a state program that seems to be worthwhile.
Councilor Bowman, can you shed some light?
Yes, I just want to clarify my statement. I think we heard quite clearly from the presenter from DOER is that they are prepared to start the 10 communities starting January 1st, and that if we had not passed the specialized code and had it be effective as of January 1st, they would not be prepared to we would not be able to then start our participation in the 10 Communities Act in January. We would have to wait until whatever the effective date was. That's what we heard quite clearly, and that he needed one set of rules for every 10 communities, and that if we wanted to be on board with the January 1st start date, we needed to have the specialized stretch code in place starting no later than January 1st.
Okay. Councilor Crosley, that sounds, that's what I remember as well.
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Wright? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Wright. Councilor Leary has had her hand up already.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I feel very strongly that we should be adopting the stretch code at no earlier than January 2024. It's really essential for us to meet our goals of eliminating greenhouse gas emissions. As I think we all know, it's buildings, particularly residential, that emit most of the emissions in the city. So it's a critical step. And we also learned during the committee of the whole that it's not really a big jump from from our current requirements to the stretch code. And really, it actually incentivizes houses under 4,000 square feet. And I think many of us are in favor of seeing some smaller houses being built. I just don't see any downside to waiting, so I urge my colleagues to vote adoption of the specialized stretch code by no later than January 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Wright?
Thank you. And I would like to have a question, maybe through you to either Councillor Bowman or Crossley. So if we do have this in effect January 1st, we can go with the all electrification. But it doesn't, if we start July 1st, that would be okay too. It's just that it would be delayed 6 months. I'd like to give, builders some extra time. It takes them a while to get a project going too. So I'd like to see the extra time, but I don't think it's going to exclude us from the 10 communities if we do it in July 2024. Is that correct?
What I recall is that there may be other communities that jump in before we do, who are trying to be one of the 10 communities, and if they're ready before we're ready, then they go in and we don't. That's the rub, so to speak. Councillor, who wanted? Did you? No. Anybody? Councillor Kalis.
I think what Councillor, oh my God, Leary talked about was spot on. I think we should be going with January 1st, 2024. Developers are going to have 10 months just about notice. They know we've been talking about this already. I think it's time to go. So I'm fully supportive of that January 1st, 2024 date. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Danberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I will also be supporting the January 1st date because I'd like to remind everyone that Cambridge, Somerville, Brookline, Watertown have already joined the 10 communities, and they have given less than 6 months to their building community, and that has worked out so far all right for them. So I think giving 9 months is good, but I don't think that we need any more than 9 months. I think that the building community will be all right with this, because as it has already been pointed out, the big leap was the first adoption of the stretch code. This is adding to the environmental aspect of the stretch code, but it is not nearly as much as a leap as the one that we have already taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, now do we want to do this in 2 votes? Yes. So do we need a parens for that? No, just do it in 2 votes.
President, it is within your capacity, if member of the council asks to divide the question, you can elect to do that under the rules.
I'm fine with separating the question. So the first one is the first. Yes, Councillor Gentile.
I had my hand up just before you called for a vote. I had a question.
Please go ahead.
So can one of the proponents with great certainty please help me to understand exactly the impact on new construction and electrification if we vote this item, whether it be January or July 1st? In other words, and I attended that meeting. I can't say for sure what they said about the 10 Communities Act or whatever, so I hope people know what they're talking about when they're representing what the state said, because I don't remember the state saying some of those things, but it was a long meeting. But what I'm more interested in now is, I just heard somebody mention a 4,000 square foot building. Can somebody please tell me that with new construction, you know, what will be allowed as far as sources of heating and cooling the house? Does this mean that we're going to be adopting a code that says 100% that all you can do is electrify houses, new construction, and no gas or oil or whatever? I just want to be clear on that.
So you're asking about in the optional code, in the optional specialized code, what does it affect? Councilor Crossley, do you have the answer to that?
I can try. There's several things. There's a nice handout on your desk, Councilor Gentile, that would be, I think, very helpful. But I'm not sure how to summarize it here.
Well,
Go ahead. Ask another
just
question.
about, I guess the thing I want to understand most is about the mandate to electrify all new construction buildings.
It's not a mandate to electrify as much as there are HERS ratings you have to achieve that are different given whether or not you electrify versus have a mixed fuel building. And the HERS ratings are more challenging to achieve if you have a mixed fuel building. That's the essence of it, but there's a handout on your desk, which doesn't help. I don't know if you got it online in some way, which has the HERS ratings required for the stretch code versus the specialized code as of January 2024. So I can quickly go through, summarize it. For residential low-rise all-electric, you have to achieve a home energy rating score of 45. For residential low-rise up to 3 stories mixed fuel, you have to achieve a lower home energy rating score, HERS rating of 42, and you have to install solar photovoltaics. I can say that, actually. I don't know why I couldn't say it now. Anyway, unless your building doesn't allow, because of its orientation or whatever, for solar to work. And that's for residential low-rise. For multifamily, 4 stories and over, for an all-electric building, you have to achieve a home energy rating score of 45, or something called TEDI, which was in your packet, which I hope you don't ask me to describe. It's just another pathway, or passive house, which I think we're more familiar with. Under the stretch code, under the specialized code, you have to go passive house. For multifamily, 4 stories and over, if you're a mixed fuel building, you have to get a lower HERS rating. So for a mixed fuel building, and this is pretty standard throughout, you have to have a more efficient building envelope, but only by a few points. You have to go from a 45 to a 42. If the home energy rating scores are meaningful to you in a sort of bricks and mortar kind of way, that's not a very big difference. So for multifamily, 4 stories and over, for an all-electric building, you have to achieve a HERS rating of 45, which is more stringent, or you have to go passive house or use the TEDI pathway. And for a multifamily, 4 stories and over 12,000 square feet, I should have said that earlier too. For a mixed fuel building, you have to get a lower HERS score or use TEDI or passive house as your pathway as of July 2024. Now that's with the stretch code. With the specialized code, the values are higher, but we're really talking about, well, I guess we're talking about both. So with the specialized code, you have to go to a passive house program as your pathway to compliance.
For what size building?
Multifamily, 4 stories and over 12,000 square feet. And for a multifamily, 4 stories and over 12,000 square feet, Passive House was for all electric. For a mixed fuel building, you have to go to Passive House and provide wiring for electrification. So these handouts are on your desk. I'm not sure if there's a way to provide these.
That's fine, and I think you answered my question. It's not an absolute mandate. You can have a mixed fuel building, but
Yes.
the HERS requirements are going to be more stringent if it's a mixed fuel building, which I get. I know people think that I'm 100% against this, whole idea of electrification. It's not the case. I appreciate and understand all the efforts we're making. I think the idea of having our energy coaches makes sense, to educate people and to try and get them to go this route. I have just been saying all along that I don't think that we are at the point where we should be putting all of our eggs in one basket and mandating it. I don't believe we're there yet. And I worry about, if you were saying to me that we shouldn't allow electrification and we should make every building gas, I'd be saying the same thing. Why do you want to put all your eggs in one basket? There should be some flexibility until we are 100% certain that, that electrification is the way to go in all circumstances. So I've wanted to vote for this thing, and I guess I'm still struggling with it. But from what you just said to me, there is an opportunity, especially with smaller residential buildings, to at least have a mixed fuel option available to you as long as you meet certain energy requirements. I mean, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, well, that's what I wanted to try and understand. So I appreciate the information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Norton.
So I just want to clarify, we're voting on the specialized code, but that's a separate item than the building electrification home rule petition that we already approved, and we're one of the 10 communities. And that does require electrification in new construction and major renovation. So these are all trying to get to the same place, which is energy efficiency, which is using less energy. The cheapest form of energy is the one you don't have to use, so everyone should be in favor of that. And then getting off of fossil fuels and then promoting solar, electrification. So there's different angles to it, and there's no way that I can even try to come close to what Councillor Crossley just described just now, but I did have communication with Mr. Finlayson from DOER about the timing, because I used to work with him, so I was following up when I was trying to get ready for this meeting. And basically 4 of the communities, and I can tell you which they are, Brookline, Watertown, Cambridge, and Somerville, they've passed the specialized code, which goes above and beyond the stretch code, as we've been talking about, effective July 2023. DOER, which is the agency that Mr. Finlayson works at from the state, they're urging communities such as Newton to pass the specialized code and have it come into become effective January 2024, in order to obviously be moving things along, but also be consistent with other communities. So there's, as much as possible, one consistent rule for architects and builders and so forth, one set of time frame. If we do push it off to July, we will be in the last tranche of communities that are doing this. So it's not to say that we'll be laggards, because we'll still be ahead of a lot of other communities. But if we really want to be sort of in the lead among the leader communities, we won't be first, but at least then we wouldn't be last if we are January 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Leary.
Thank you, Madam President. I would love to get Councillor Gentile's vote on this. And he's I want to just follow up on Councilor Crossley said, that it is a recipe of incentives to get people to reduce their energy use. So it does not mandate electrification per se, but if you're a mixed fuel building, they would require you, for example, to be pre-wired for future electrification and have appropriate electric service when it's first built. And then for another mixed fuel building, it's required to have on-site solar PV systems. So these are the kind of things that they're working to move people along. So if you're not doing as well, like you have a larger building, then you have to work harder to make the HERS rating. But they do give you different ways of doing it. So it's sensible, it's flexible, and it moves us, I think, efficiently in the right direction, which ultimately is all electric buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Downs?
Councilor Laredo hasn't spoken yet on this item. I will postpone my comments
Okay,
until
good,
he's
thank
spoken.
you. So first then is Councilor Noel.
I just wanted to add, as I've been following along, that my understanding is we got a memo from Ann Berwick that Josh Morse has said we've been in compliance since 2018. So my understanding of that is that this isn't a big leap for us to support this, so I'll be supporting it for the city buildings. Yeah. I still would be supporting it, though. I think for all the points that have been mentioned.
Thank you. Councilor Rado?
So I'll be brief. This is obviously for all buildings, not just for city buildings, but I think it's the right thing to do for reasons that a number of my colleagues have stated. I'll be voting for it, and as long as we have the assurance from the chair through Councilor Downs' question that we're not adversely impacting our ability to be part of the 10 communities if we wait till January 1st, 2024, then I think Councilor Norton is quite wise in what she says. And I'll point out it's March 6th. You're really giving folks 10 months of advance notice here. It seems to me that's ample time for people to be able to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Downs?
Thank you. I'll be brief as well because I feel like I'm beating a dead horse already. But we know that we need to get off of fossil fuels, and we know that we should have done that a long time ago. We have the technology, and one of the things that you do when you're trying to wean yourself off a substance is at least starting with the new stuff. This starts us with the new stuff. On, more than an energy issue, this is a consumer protection issue. When you buy a new house, you do not want to have to retrofit it later with the new systems you will be required to have. So this is really about protecting our residents and our future residents from having the additional expense of removing their gas furnace and adding electrification. So I will be voting for it.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Councilor Wright?
Thank you, President Albright. I think you saw a couple of my questions in that. There's so many of the details that haven't been nailed out, and I see total chaos when this gets turned on. But we're not going to be the first community going through it, but it's going to be painful, especially with ISD. And I hope that, some of my questions, and I know there's a lot more that need to be answered before we actually do this. I hope somebody will be working on it so that it'll be a smoother process when we actually do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Crossley?
Thank you, and thank you, Councilor Wright. But I'd like to respond to that question, and I want to make sure everyone understands that your concern is exactly why we want to have a period of time between adopting the specialized code and making it effective. 6 months is recommended. 9 months, or if it's 9 or 10 months, I'm not sure, I haven't counted, is quite substantial. And I think our department won't have any trouble meeting that time frame. One of the reasons I wanted to make sure that council heard how difficult it's been, and we did hear this in Committee of the Whole, to bring the new stretch code into compliance is that unfortunately the state did not put forward the usual, what they used to call a concurrence period, where you could choose the new code or stick with the old code for a period of 6 months. The AG's office ruled that unlawful, but we still can have a grace period, and that grace period is really important. And there was no grace period basically this year for the new stretch code to take effect. We all knew it was coming for a very long time, but there was not the usual grace period, so a lot of people got caught. That's why when we adopt, and hopefully it's when we adopt the specialized code, we wanted to give at least that 6-month window for people to get prepared. And in fact, as someone said, it's 9 months or 10 months from now. So I think that's a really important component, and it was really important for all of us to understand that, the industry needs some time, and also you understand that it takes a very long time to develop a project, develop the design for the project and all the construction documents and so forth, and you develop it to a set of rules. So if all of a sudden you get a new set of rules in the middle or toward the end, or even after you've gotten your permits, then you're in trouble. You have to go back to the drawing boards, and it's very expensive. So that 6-month window is sort of minimum, and the 9 or 10 month window that we're proposing going to January 1st should be plenty of time.
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Madam President. I will be supporting this, and just a brief statement. I am just tired of being behind on this and watching all the tear downs and the new houses built and automatically being hooked up to fossil fuel with not one solar panel on the roof or any passive construction. And that's the reality in this city right now. Except for the big developments, all the residential homes are just automatically hooked up to fossil fuel and to the gas line. So I want anything we can do to move faster to get, especially in what Councilor Downs said about the new construction. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing this with all new construction, including residential in this city. Thank you. And let's move on this.
Thank you. Councillor Baker, do you still want to divide the question?
I was just about to indicate that I'm persuaded by our colleagues that the January date is probably the right one, and unless there's countervailing sentiment from colleagues who want to have the question voted, so I think we could vote it together with that date.
Okay.
So I assume the chair would like to move that as the proposal before us. I'll leave that to her.
Why don't you clarify the motion then, and the date?
So then the motion is to adopt the specialized code and to make it effective as of January 1 of 2024. Thank you, Councilor Baker.
So without anyone else wanting to speak, we'll call the roll.
Councilor Baker.
Aye.
Councilor Bowman.
Aye.
Councilor Crossley.
Aye.
Councilor Danberg. Councilor Downs.
Aye.
Councilor Gentile.
Aye.
Councilor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councilor Grossman.
Aye.
Councilor Humphrey.
Aye.
Councilor Kalis.
Aye.
Councilor Kelly.
Aye.
Councilor Krinsman.
Aye.
Councilor Laredo.
Aye.
Councilor Leary.
Aye.
Councilor Lipoff.
Aye.
Councilor Lucas.
Aye.
Councilor Malachy.
Aye.
Councilor Markowitz. Councilor Noel.
Aye.
Councilor Norton.
Aye.
Counselor Oliver.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Albright.
Aye.
Motion carries 23 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent.
Okay, that concludes our work. Councilor Bowman, do you have a motion for us?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much.